reminder that we love questions from the audience, so you can start commenting your questions now, or you can also add them as we go. I'll be right back on to welcome our guests to the show. Thanks for meeting us for coffee.
Hi everyone, we are live from Manifest, the Future of Supply Chain in Las Vegas. Aaron just gave me the worst producer countdown ever for that go live. He can't count. I am joined by Matt Salefski. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
You are very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I love talking to you, Matt. This is like the second time we've done this, I think.
At least the second time.
At least the second time.
At least the second time.
We caught up at JOC Inland, I think was
Yep.
the last time we talked in
Yep.
Chicago, and that was back in September. So 4 months or so have gone by. We'll see what's new in your world.
Yeah, that was kind of the last conference of the 2024 conference season.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the first conference of the 2025 conference season.
You're right. You're right. I don't think I've had anything happen between then and now. I don't remember if DatCon was after or before JOC. It might have been just after. That was my last one.
Maybe just after,
So I wrapped up my year with DatCon in October right after that, and now here we are in February kicking the year off. So
Awesome.
it's good to be here. We were also just talking about these amazing cookies. So if you guys are at Manifest and you're listening to this and you see these cookies, we still have like at least 50 of these things to give away?
At least 50.
Matt has 50 amazing sugar cookies to give away. They're really cool, fun to take back home for a souvenir too. My son is going to really appreciate the cookie that you guys gave me, so thank you. Matt, for anyone who is listening that doesn't know you, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Matt. I'm the co-founder of a company called Rectangle. What we do at Rectangle is we build solutions that will connect any system to any other system in logistics. And so I use the word system very loosely because it's not just any system, but also really any source of data. That data could be a website, a spreadsheet, an email, a phone call, and it can go to anywhere else. So it could go to a spreadsheet, a TMS, an email, a phone call. And we do it super fast. So anywhere from 2 minutes on the fast side to 2 days on the slow side.
Do what fast? Like build a whole solution or like a connection?
Yeah. So for example, we met with a carrier 2 Thursdays ago. And they asked us to do some work for them to automate some workflows with one of their customers. And by Monday, it was all up and running, ready to go.
Wow, that's awesome. So what did you do before Rectangle? Like, what's your
Sure.
background? Why did you get into this space?
That's a great question. So for the last 10 plus years, I've been really at the intersection of tech and logistics. So I spent a couple years at Amazon, moved to a freight broker called Transfix, spent a number of years at Flexport, and really what inspired me to solve the problems that I'm solving today are my experiences at those companies and sort of trying to solve the pain that I felt as a tech leader at those companies.
Yeah, so you were in the technology side
Yeah.
at those companies, and what were you building technology solutions was it all like stuff internal? Were you all building stuff that engaged with your partners?
So a lot of internal, a lot of external. So if you're in the brokerage, if you're at a freight forwarder, you've got carriers and you have shippers, or on the brokerage side or on the freight forwarding side, you've got shippers, carriers,
Sure.
BCOs. And really the challenge that brokers and forwarders and shippers face, for that matter, is how do you pass the baton of data from one company to the next company? And that was just a huge, huge challenge. Really, there were only a few options that we had at the time. One was have someone to manually enter the data. Mm-hmm. Another was outsourcing that work to a third party that can do it a little cheaper. Then you have EDI that can do some of the data entry.
Okay.
But as we build more complex and more real-time systems that work between companies in the supply chain, you need something that is a little bit more fast-moving than EDI. And that's where we come in.
Is that what this one is?
So I think so there's EDI is a controversial topic, especially now as there are more AI solutions that are
Yes.
available to connect systems together. I think there's always this big debate, EDI versus API. And I think that's kind of like a false debate
Sure.
in a lot of ways, because it's not EDI or API, it's EDI, API, RPA, outsourcing, manual data entry, custom whatever. And I think that topic's been discussed at length among many opinionated folks in the supply chain. And
Well, I have a question then
Yeah.
about AI, because I think AI is starting to become controversial in the sense that we don't want to just hear of AI referred to as like the new blanket solution to all things like data automation and movement. So what are your thoughts on AI? But I guess what I want to know is how have you seen it used effectively, and how has it been not used effectively when we're talking about automation and logistics?
It's there's just over the last year or two, there's been a lot of experimentation among startups, among incumbents. How can you use this technology that as there's really no one has 10 years of experience, and no one has really 5 years of experience using these tools. And so there's just been a lot of experimentation going on. And where I've seen the most interesting applications is on you've got some unstructured data over here. And by unstructured, what I mean is it kind of looks like an email, or even like a PDF could be considered unstructured, or voice audio could be unstructured, or pictures could be unstructured. And AI is okay at taking that as an input and outputting a reasonable representation of that a computer can consume. Where I think, and there are other areas where folks are experimenting with AI around automatically communicating, automatically being a voice on the other side of the phone to
say phone calls
talk
now.
or to take that information and do smart things with it. And
Hopefully.
And I think my opinion is a lot of that is like a first level of opportunity with AI. That's kind of like how things are being done today and applying AI to how things are done today. I think that over the next year or two or three, we're going to see AI used in ways that sort of think about how things should be done. So, for example, if you are a system A and system B, and your broker and one of your shipper customers says, hey, I need you to upload this document into our ERP after every shipment, let's say. One solution could be you use an AI agent, you tell it, hey, go to our TMS, find the document for that particular load, go to our customer's ERP and upload that document for that particular load. I think AI can be applied in a more direct way, actually. Instead of navigating these systems to do it kind of like how a human would, I think you can use AI to actually be more direct about it.
How? Is that something we can't understand?
No, you could. So, I think it goes back to the API versus EDI debate. Okay. A lot of folks are thinking about using AI agents like OpenAI came out with this new feature or product, you could call it, called Operator, which can navigate your computer for you. So you say, hey, Operator, find me the weather for Chicago tomorrow. And what it will do is it will go to Google probably as the first step and search for weather in Chicago. And then it will open a website, and that website will show you the weather in Chicago, and then it will copy the UI of a piece of that website that'll tell you, and it'll output like, okay, the weather in Chicago tomorrow will be, 28 degrees and snowy. But what is a more direct approach is to simply ask, how to say it, a language that a computer can already understand that's not UI. Because UIs are built for humans. They're not built for computers to communicate.
UIs are built for like humans to be able to human speak to computer speak.
Yes. So it's kind of like we're in this world where it goes from, so like at the very basic level, like ones and zeros. Yeah. To programming language that humans can reason about, to a user interface that any human can really understand. Whereas you could probably just go use AI to go, maybe not zeros and ones to 0 and 1s, but at least a programming language that humans can understand to another programming language that both humans and computers can understand.
It seems too simple, but I can also see why you have to be really
well. I mean, that's
really understand the space.
That's the beautiful thing about EDI. Like EDI, yeah.
Maybe that's why it seems so simple, because anyone who's been at all involved in setting up an EDI integration knows that it doesn't sound anything like what you just described.
Well, an EDI integration, it's just you've got company A over here, company B over here. They largely agree upon one of the standards that exists, and you might have to negotiate a little bit about some of the edge cases about what I need in the other field some particular piece of information on every shipment in an EDI transaction. But ultimately, EDI is a format that is largely kind of this hybrid between human readable and computer readable. Whereas if you go to a website, a website's really meant for a human readable. It's not meant for machine readable.
Sure.
And so I think there's going to be a lot of interesting applications around sort of going down a layer and enabling AI to actually not replicate a human, but instead replicate how a machine might talk to a machine.
Okay, so next question. I think when I think of EDI or API or anything like this, I think about the word integration. Mm-hmm. And when I think about the word integration, I think about needing two systems. Mm-hmm. So I think of a TMS and a shipper TMS, mm-hmm. a broker TMS and a shipper mm-hmm. TMS. Or I think of a carrier's TMS and the broker's TMS. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about things like that, and But can we go beyond that now? Like, does it have to be a system, or can it be basically anything that has like a website or I don't know how?
Yeah, so I mean, there are in logistics, there are many scenarios where you have to go and manually go to a website. Someone has to enter some data in that website, and that website will spit back some information. So it could be anything like a terminal website on the drayage side. It could be, on the parcel side, getting a rate from one of the parcel carriers. And, there's no reason why you can't take those human actions and automate them using, I don't say AI, but using sort of legacy approaches that are really empowered by AI to do it in a deterministic way. And I've thought a little bit about this word deterministic, and it's a complicated word. It actually, but the concept's very simple. What deterministic is essentially when I use a calculator and I type 1 + 1, every time I hit the enter key, it's going to spit out 2 every time, every single time. What AI is non-deterministic. Now, most likely, if you ask ChatGPT or Claude or any of the really the modern language models, what 1 + 1 is, it'll tell you 2. But if you ask, the classic one is how many R's are in the word strawberry. Sometimes it'll get it right, sometimes it'll get it wrong. There's no way that you can actually figure out why it's right sometimes or wrong some other times. And that's largely because the way AI works is by making predictions about ones and zeros, basically. And so sometimes it'll predict right. Most of the time it'll predict right. Sometimes it'll predict wrong. And for me, the challenge with just like purely trusting operations to AI is that you don't know when it will be wrong or when it will be right. Sometimes it'll be wrong, sometimes it'll be right. If it's wrong, like if I'm building software and it's wrong one time and my customer's like, fix that, I don't know how to fix it.
You can't, right.
I don't know why it was wrong, because it was merely wrong because it predicted the wrong thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So for example, like if you're a weather person and right now it's snowing in Chicago, I'm supposed to go back to Chicago tonight. I probably won't, but I may be able to. And if I were to ask a weather person, do you think I can go to Chicago tonight? They'll probably be like, well, probably not. But I might be able to go back to Chicago tonight. And it's very hard to sort of constrain AI to always output the same thing. And so that's what's called non-determinism, is when is you sort of like don't know where you're going to get.
So you're saying we have to be very obviously careful about the application of AI when we're developing technology.
Yeah. I think a lot of what's happening today is putting a human in the loop. So you'll hear this thrown out like, it's AI with a human in the loop. And what that means is AI does most of the work, and then a human just kind of verifies it. Because a human has to, it might be wrong, and so a human has to verify it.
Yeah. Okay, can you, we're going to run out of time here soon, but I want to see if you could give me a couple of examples of how Rectangle has worked with companies in our industry to help us conceptualize what this might look like when it actually is built.
Yeah, so we work across the stack. And when I say the stack, I don't mean the tech stack, I mean the freight stack. I think about the freight stack, it's like all the way from when freight starts its journey. That journey could be in Europe or Asia on its way to the US or wherever else in the world, to when it's finally delivered to the end customer. The end customer could be a retailer, it could be a human's house. And so practically where we've seen a lot of success is around scenarios where we've got a relationship between a broker and a carrier, or a shipper and a broker, and there's this data need that can't really be easily done via API or EDI because it's time sensitive. There's no API that exists potentially, or it doesn't fit well into the constraints of the EDI standard. And so what we can do is essentially say, a great example is in the beginning of last year, mid last year, there's this new data point called empty return date. And there was a law that was passed, or a regulation, where now shippers need to care about the empty return date, whereas before it was only carriers did. And there's no historical precedent for putting this in the EDI. There's no historical precedent for having an API for this. And so that's an example of when data has shifted and the data needs have shifted, we can come in and actually fill that gap where an API or an EDI connection may not exist, or may take a long time for that to actually be implemented.
Sure. If anyone is interested in anything you said or has questions, because I feel like they might have questions, because it took me a second to try to digest that, how can they get in touch with you? You're on LinkedIn, right?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm the only Matt Salefski in the world. So it should
Really?
should be pretty easy to find me.
Your last name saved you there, because there's millions of
there are
Matthews
Matt's a
out
very
there.
common name,
Yeah.
so combine a very common name with a very uncommon name. And so you can find me on LinkedIn. You can send me an email. My email is matt@rectanglehq.com if you're curious. So yeah, those are the two best
Also,
ways.
if you're still at Manifest,
Yeah, there's
cookies,
plenty
come
of
get some
cookies.
Be around for the rest of the day. I'm gonna keep a couple here at the booth too, so you guys can stop by here and grab some cookies as well. But
And they're packed to travel.
yeah, that's true. They are packed to travel. So thank you guys for listening in today. I appreciate you for tuning in while we are live from Manifest the Future of Supply Chain. And thank you, Matt, for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.